Hi, thanks for tuning in today. Today I've got a review for you. If you're wondering why I'm in my suit, while I'm recording this is actually on Sunday. We're between services right now, but I want to get this video out to you. This is a review on Mounce's Expository Dictionary. This is kind of billed as a replacement to Vine's Expository Dictionary. And there's some people who they don't know Greek, but they want to be able to have the ability to do word studies. This is sort of a bridge between people who have no or little knowledge of biblical languages, and kind of the bridge from that to doing some basic word studies and things like that. So I'm going to get into the video. We'll look at it. I'm going to talk about, maybe at the beginning of the video, I'll talk about some of the physical qualities, just kind of the size and some of those things, but then we'll kind of get into the meat of it, and we'll talk about, the contents, how this book works, and things of that nature. So I hope this video is useful to you. Okay, so here it is. And towards the end of this video, I will kind of give you my recommendation whether you should buy this or not. But just the size of it, it is 9.5 by about 6 1/4, probably about 1.5 inches thick right here. And this is it. This is my old Thomas Nelson's Vines. They kind of did an update on Vines as well. But if you've got the Thomas Nelson version of Vines, you can kind of see a comparison here. They're pretty similar in size. This one done by Mounce is a little bit smaller, and so yeah, it's pretty thin paper, which is not that big a deal to me because it's just a dictionary. It's readable, and that just tells you that they sacrifice some paper thickness to make it portable and easy for you to use. So as far as the size and stuff, it's a pretty good size, and I find it useful. So let's kind of get into the meat of this and discuss what this is. This is a dictionary that works off English words. If you are reading through your English Bible and you run across the word worry, if you're reading the King James Version, you'll probably get something like careful. Hey, one thing I forgot to mention is that you need to stick to the end of this video, or at least skip to the end of the video if you're at all thinking about getting this volume. I'm going to share some information with you about some of the caution you need to take in regards to just doing word studies. So please, if you're considering this, at least watch the end of this video, and if you would, consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. I'd really enjoy having you as a subscriber on this channel, and I hope this channel can add value to you and be something that's worth your time. Thanks. But if you're reading along, you find this word worry, you can just look up worry, and here in this particular case, that word, they're only going to define it in the way it's used in the New Testament, and it gives you various Greek words that have been translated as worry, and then it defines it. So let's zoom in there. So it will give you the Greek word, a transliteration. Then it's going to give you the Goodrich Kohlenberger, I believe is what that GK stands for. That's kind of an updated Strong's number, and indeed they give you the Strong's number right here as well. It tells you how many times it appears, and then it starts giving you a pretty full, and the kind of definition it gives you is not a real stuffy academic definition. It gives you a very readable, easy to understand definition, and this does this kind of all across the board. We'll take the word throne here, and you can see this time it's going to define it in terms of the Old Testament as well. So it'll give you the Hebrew word, the transliteration, the coding as far as the numbering there, the Strong's number, And it gives you a pretty lengthy definition. Then it moves into how this word is used in the New Testament and the different words that are used in the New Testament. So that's one way to use it. So if you're reading along and you come across the word throne, you can take your, you can look it up and see if they've got a reference here. If you're reading in 1 Kings, you can find out, what the underlying Hebrew is there. There's also an index back here. So if you're reading along and Proverbs 1:3, and you run across to, let's say you're studying Proverbs, and you're, kind of wanting to understand the words that are being used, you can see Proverbs 1:3 is mentioned here, so you go to page 795, and you can find, indeed, Proverbs 1:3 is mentioned here. You can see which Hebrew word they're discussing, so you can use it in that way. Also, let's say you're doing this a little bit differently. Let's say you're using an interlinear. Let me grab an interlinear and show you how this works. Okay, so let's say you're using an interlinear like this one. And if you'd like to see a review of this interlinear, I can give you one. Just leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know you'd want to see a review of this interlinear, and I can be happy to give you one. But let's just say you're reading it along in your interlinear, and you see the word, let's say children. And you want to look that up. And you see that has a Strong's number 5043. Now, you've got two options here. You can either try to look up the word children, or you can look up that number 5043. So let's try it by looking up 5043. You can see these gray pages right here. That is the very brief. There's another there's a section to this that gives you a very brief definitions. And this is this section, and it will link for you. It'll give you kind of a place that you can go to find a fuller definition. So let's look up 5043. And since that's a Strong's number, we'll have to look over here. Okay, so you find it there. There's 5043. If we were using one that was using the GK numbers instead of the Strong's numbers, you'd use this. But you can just kind of follow along at the bottom of each definition if you're looking for the Strong's number. And sure enough, there is a short definition here, and it gives you a link here. It says see children. So obviously you can flip back here and you can see a fuller definition when you actually look up the word children. So here it is. And so we're going to look for the Greek word teknon. And there it is, Strong's 5043. And you've got a pretty decent full definition of that word, maybe more than you want. But that's the basics of how this works. There's two different ways to look it up. You can look it up based on the English, or you could use either your Strong's number or your GK number to look up words. And it gives you a very basic, very easy to understand definition of those words. So as I said, in the back, you've got your main dictionary, which basically constitutes all this matter, which you can look up based on the English. You've got a scripture index here, and then in the back, you've got a very short, brief introduction, which includes every word that appears in the Hebrew Bible and in the Greek New Testament. So that's really handy. This section gives you definitions of every word that appears, I believe it's 50 times or more in the Hebrew Bible, and 10 times or more in the Greek New Testament. Right, yeah, every Hebrew word occurring 50 times or more, and and Greek words occurring 10 times or more, and then exegetically significant words you'll find it in the body. And then there's a more what we'd say more exhaustive but not as deep Hebrew, Greek, English section here that's arranged not by the English but by the Hebrew and Greek themselves, and you can just follow along and find your Strong's number or your GK number there. So let me zoom out here and give you some final thoughts and share with you my thinking on this book. Okay, just some concluding thoughts. I like this. It's, if you're actually learning Greek and you're actually learning Hebrew, this is going to be very limited in its usefulness, to be quite honest with you. This is written for people who are interested in biblical languages, but they're not necessarily going to invest the time to actually learn the language. So there's an introduction here, and he talks about the proper way to do word studies. There's some pitfalls there, right? When you're doing just word studies based on, just looking up Hebrew and Greek words, there's a danger that you can place too much emphasis on one word and make it mean, like, just pack it full as if this one word meant just so much. In fact, as I've been reading through the Greek New Testament, sometimes you realize that things that people have made big deals out of, like they're super unusual or uncommon in the Greek New Testament, or something's just so packed full of meaning. When you're actually reading the Greek New Testament, sometimes you find out some of that stuff isn't really true. So sometimes people make mistakes based on the etymology of words. In other words, if the word is, related or is derived from an earlier root, and then they try to make some big deal out of that. So you need to be aware that there's some dangers with just doing word studies and not actually learning the language. What I'd recommend, though, is if you do kind of want to get into the meanings of Greek and Hebrew words, this isn't a bad tool to have. He has an introduction there where he sort of warns you about some of the dangers that I just mentioned. And he gives you the proper way to do actual word studies. So I would encourage you, if you get this, read that introduction. It's helpful. And just, I would encourage you, if you're not learning biblical languages, you just want to mix a little bit of humility. I know you will. But just encourage you to mix a little bit of humility into, what you get out of a book like this, and don't make it the end-all, be-all of everything. You can find some really helpful information in here. There's some words that are, more technical words. You'll find out that, words like propitiation and things like that have Old Testament backgrounds, and some of that's very illuminating and helpful. So I would say that, if you're actually learning Greek and Hebrew, probably won't want this. You'll look for some more technical references. If you want to do basic word studies, I think this is probably a pretty good, reliable source. It's very easy to use, very straightforward. But I really encourage you to read the introduction and use this tool wisely. So I was trying to think of a good illustration about using this. And I would just say a scalpel is a really good tool. And a chainsaw is a really good tool. But you don't ever want to mix up their uses. A scalpel won't get you very far cutting down a tree, and a chainsaw is definitely not for doing surgery. So by really understanding what this is meant for and what it's not meant for, you won't end up trying to use a scalpel when you need a chainsaw or vice versa. So I would just recommend this is a good resource. It's not a bad thing to have if you're interested in doing basic word studies, but you don't have a knowledge of Hebrew or Greek yet. Hey, do you have a book that you'd like to see reviewed that relates to biblical studies, biblical Greek, or anything like that? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you made it this far in the video, always thankful for our loyal subscribers.